I'm ready to open up. You ready?
Fantastic show.
Yes, sir.
This is Coach B. Moore. I want to welcome you to a special edition of the Super Fantastic Show. I'm here with my good friend, compatriot, respected colleague, Dr. Roddy Ferguson. Hello, sir.
What's going on, Coach B? How are you?
I'm doing very well, sir. I'm a bit perturbed. I'm a bit excited. There's a lot going on in the country right now that really impacts us. And I don't mean us as any particular demographic except for human beings who are facing human rights violations. And as we record this, we are in the wake of what we would consider to be very bad judgment on the part of the justice system in Ferguson, Missouri, and in Staten Island, New York, regarding the killing of two young black men at the hands of police who have basically been exonerated.
I tell you what, there is, I believe that what we are looking at, if we look at it from a sociological standpoint, I think we're looking at the cusp or the tipping point of apartheid. And the reason why I say that is because by 2025, 2030, the American population is going to shift. The United States of America, that is. I'm not including South America and all of North America, including Canada. I'm talking about the United States of America. The population is going to shift where that those that are currently in the majority are going to be in the minority. But those that are in the majority, they are not going to be willing to let go of power when they reduce in numbers. That creates what we know as apartheid, or an apartheid-like system that has some of the dressings of apartheid, if you will. Okay, I think what you're looking at is you're looking at power that does not want to concede itself.
Power never wants to concede itself, and I agree. It's interesting that you bring an apartheid comparison. I'd never thought of it, and funny that you and I hadn't even talked about it before this, but that's a pretty good comparison. I'm reminded of a dinner I had some years ago. I was visiting some friends in Los Angeles, and they had a dinner party. And one of the other dinner guests was a guy from England. And in the conversation, he went on to talk about how he could trace his family back on the same land for something like 400 years. I mean, he could go back in his lineage. It was in the 400, 800. He can go back in lineage. And I found his perspective so interesting because he went on to say that he enjoys visiting and watching the politics of America and the social, phenomena of what's happening in America, because his country and his family have been so long established, but America is a relatively young country in the world. And his analogy was that it's almost like a volcano has erupted and the lava is still cooling and hardening, and you're still seeing the firming up of ground. And so we're dealing with a lot of issues that are shifting, like tectonic plates. Everything is still kind of settling in. So the fact that we saw apartheid in our lifetime come to some resolution or some progress, and now we're kind of seeing that here, is kind of interesting if you take yourself out of the picture and look at the big picture. That's a good analogy there, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely. So I can understand exactly what you're saying. I think what happens is that everybody tends to look at their particular situation as being the most important in this particular discussion.
And correct.
And correct. And you and I know from being married that it's not as important to be correct as it is to be understood and to understand the other person.
Mm-hmm.
So when I listen to someone else, I am not listening to them with the intent to refute what it is that they say. I am listening to them in order to understand what they are saying and why they say it. Sometimes when I speak to some of my contemporaries or some of my counterparts or some people who are not the same race as me or don't have the same background, heritage, legacy, etc., they seem to dismiss what I say and purport before they digest it. It's as if they take my verbal food and spit it out of their cognitive mouths before they allow it to even permeate the fabric of their person or their digestive process. That makes people very, very fucking upset.
Yep.
And it pisses people off.
Yep.
When you do that, that is where the argument begins. Because you cannot be white and be an expert on being black. And you can't be black and be an expert on being white. And you can't be a man and be an expert on women. Now you can be an expert in terms of the women's reproductive system. You can be an OBGYN. You can be an expert in terms of women's studies. You can study the women's movement. You can study a lot of things about feminism, but you're never going to be a woman. So when a woman speaks on women's issues, you have to defer. When a black person speaks on black issues, you have to defer. When a lawyer speaks on issues of law, you have to defer. Even when a police officer speaks about what it is that he knows about law enforcement, you should defer. And when Charles Barkley speaks about basketball, I will defer. But when Charles Barkley speaks upon social issues and he is not trained in that particular environment, I'm not deferring.
Right, right. Now, you bring up a good segue into the Barkley discussion. I want to go back just 1 second before we jump forward, because in your list of things to defer, to which we should defer, you mentioned when dealing with the police officer and what he knows about law enforcement, you should defer. Now, people will take objection to what you're saying, but if I'm hearing you correctly, I'm putting myself in the mindset of when an event is happening, or even just acknowledging what, if I'm speaking to one of my police officer friends, I might just be acknowledging the way that they think, in which case
Correct.
I should definitely defer.
Because it is a matter of perspective. What you need to understand and what I need to understand is what it feels like to be on the opposite end, in the dark, walking up to a car where you can't see the person's hands, and you pull this person over to give them a ticket, or you pull them over to let them know, hey, your tail light is out. Unfortunately, when you pull this person over who is black or Latino, they've had a lot of different experiences where things have gone bad with people they know or with themselves, or they've been fed a lot of information, and that is what they believe perceptively that something bad is going to happen. So the police officer walks up to the car, and in his mind he has his own personal bias of the snapshot about how this person looks, what they are probably thinking about me, and then as he walks up to the car, the person in the car has their own bias about what they believe the police officer is going to do.
It's a very loaded situation.
It's a loaded situation. But within that loaded situation, if everybody understands their roles and responsibilities and acts according to those, then we don't have a problem. And there are also things that are called societal norms and societal imperatives. Now, I am not going to get in an argument with any person of race or color about appropriate behavior, because you and I know that if I walk up to you and you extend the right hand of fellowship, I respond in kind by extending my right hand, and by not extending my right hand, it is off-putting. Same thing goes for when a police officer pulls you over. You have every right in the world to ask why you've been pulled over. The most appropriate response that you can give is, "Good evening, officer. How may I be of service?" "Well, sir, did you know how fast you were going?" "No, sir, I did not. I was not aware how fast I was going." "How fast was I going?" "You were going 55. "Oh, my gosh. I didn't realize I was going 55. Can I see your license and registration, please?" "Sir, my license and registration are in the glove box. May I reach into the glove box and get my license and registration, please?" "Yes, you may." "Sir, I'm getting ready to reach across my right hand and get my license and registration. I will leave my left hand on the steering wheel." You reach over and get your license and registration.
Yeah.
Listen, I am telling you that, unfortunately, and maybe white folks don't have to do this, But when I grew up, my dad had to take me through a series of steps of how you need to behave when the police pull you over. You know why? Because he did not want to bury his son because of inappropriate behavior with a police officer. That might be, listen, you might be able to extrapolate that and forward think all the way to, well, that's the problem because, you know, the black family is broken, or there's no fathers in the household, or there's no men. You can do whatever you want, okay? The bottom line is that if that is a societal norm, and we can understand, infer, and know that most police officers are going to encounter that situation, then you have to put some practices in place to combat those situations that you know will occur.
Right. Absolutely. You're hitting so many fine points. I'm going to have to start interjecting quickly because you go over some cool stuff and some powerful stuff, and I want to comment on it, but then you hit the next one. So I'm trying to remember. We got to go back for a second. Number one, I agree with what you just said. Okay, we've got an issue. We've got an issue that involves a very loaded situation where one party has a very difficult job of enforcing the law according to their training and with their social biases on board. It's in their programming. Okay, just as an aside, there's some very interesting conversations that I've been having with one of my buddies who's a soon-to-be doctor of multicultural education. And there's a concept in that entire field of multicultural education that talks about white supremacy, meaning that white culture is superior, and how that's perceived and interpreted and reenacted in all facets of American culture. The main area of study that addresses that is called critical race theory. That's been in the news several times, but that thinking is basically identified by a baseline understanding that American culture is a white supremacist culture as it is today, and as it's practiced, as it's breathed, as it's inherited. And so you come into a situation where that permeates everything. So police officers, regular American citizens, everyone is living in a culture where what's, as people would say before, the white man's ice is colder. If it's white, it's better. And you could say you don't agree with it, but it's part of the American culture. It's on board, and it would take effort to combat that. So we're dealing with a very loaded situation where the culture of the police is one in which they must maintain control and authority in the situation, and they have to balance that with policing the people that they're serving. So let's say you're pulled over by a police officer, Dr. Ferguson. He doesn't know you from a can of paint. You don't know him from a can of paint. It's a very loaded situation. He's tense. You've got a history with the police. It's not ever a pleasant interaction because typically you're going to walk away with a ticket or a fine, or you've got to be subservient in some way. You don't like that feeling. But your father was wise enough to know that even though it's not right yet, that relationship is still very tenuous, and race relations, power struggle relations in America, and regarding this police and citizen relationship is not yet what it should be. He wants you to live through this instance, and that's why he taught you what he taught you. The other side of that problem is that we can attack it that way and say, hey, everybody, whoever's going to come across police, let's talk about what your rights and responsibilities are and what proper behavior is. But at the same time, we need to be addressing systemic change from the other side, policy change, changes in the training. And that doesn't necessarily come from the guy on the street when you're dealing with the cop. That comes from when you're not dealing with the cop and when you're getting involved as a citizen in overseeing the police, or when you're getting involved at your local election, dealing with the candidate who's going to represent you, and letting him know what you expect and what you want and what your concerns are. I saw a very interesting stat recently that said more people went shopping on Black Friday than voted in the 2014 midterm election. How is anything going to change? It won't. It won't. So I applaud your dad for teaching what he taught you, and I encourage everyone listening to this to do the same.
I'll tell you what. Here's where white supremacy rears its head and white privilege does, where people just don't see it, especially if you're white. Okay? Your father and my father both had the same conversations with us when we were growing up. And I'm going to tell you the conversation, and you're going to remember it. Your dad told you. He said, you might not respect the man, but you got to respect the position.
Mm-hmm.
You had that conversation, didn't you?
Of course.
Of course you did. Now, a lot of white children don't get that conversation, because the reason why you have to be given that discussion as a young black male, because you might not respect or like police officers. You might grow up where they're called, 5-0, the pig, popos, Babylon, all type of stuff. You might grow up hearing those things in rap music. But damn it, when you're pulled over, you better damn well respect the position of the person. And you need to act like you respect the position of the person. And a lot of these altercations occur because someone doesn't defer.
Right.
In that particular case, I'm going to tell you something, man. Tell you something. And I'm going to re-enter into the feminist movement discussion with men. Okay, I'm going to re-enter. A man comes up to the car, or a woman comes up to your car with a gun and a fucking stick. They are asking you to comply with a couple of commands or demands. You then, instead of complying, are going to buck when they have a gun and a stick.
And a team.
And a team that they can call right away, because you think that a video on a camera is going to stop them from cracking your skull open. It will not. You need to make an adjustment in your behavior and your tone. And watch this. Similar discussion. Watch this. Well, it's a power thing. So watch. I'm going to give you the same discussion.
Mm-hmm.
A man is talking to a woman. The man is clearly bigger than the woman is. The man is stronger than the woman is. The man says a certain thing. The woman doesn't feel like she needs to defer. She counters with strong language and jumps up in the person's face and bucks.
Watch out.
This dude clearly is stronger than you, clearly is bigger than you. Now, what is the course of action here? Some people would say, well, that man just needs to walk away. Well, then the officer needs to walk away. See, that's not how it works. It sounds great in research. Let me tell you how it works. I'm going to give you another scenario.
Power is not going to back away.
Listen, exactly. Power is not going to concede. So you have to find another way. Case in point. Coach B is married. I am also married. Coach B and I have discussions at home with our wives. We don't argue. We have discussions. Sometimes discussions become heated discussions. Listen, when you have a discussion, you have to find out, do I need to win here? Or do I need to defer? Because understand this, deferring is winning. Deferring is, I don't have to defer all the time. No, you don't have to defer all the time. But you can defer now, have a discussion later. You can defer now, and things are better later if you want to run the marathon of life.
That's right.
If you want to run a fucking sprint, you can be first. You can win. And you may end up losing. What you learn how to do is you learn how to develop your communication skill, you learn how to develop your cunning, and you learn how to win friends and influence people, because you get more with honey than you do with vinegar. So every situation doesn't require you to buck. Now, you would hope that the person who is in the position of power would soften their approach. you would hope that that person is trained to understand, I do have a knife, I do have a gun, I do have a stick, I do have a taser, I am bigger than the other person, I am stronger. You would hope that they understand all of those things, and they would be more and have more empathy to the person they are communicating with or dealing with. But that ain't how it works. Life is different. So what you can do is you can buck or you can defer.
Right.
Now some people will listen to this, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. I don't got to defer nothing. No, you don't.
You don't?
No, you don't. I'm 39, and I look down the barrel of a police officer's gun more times than I care to discuss. And listen, I'm living today.
Living is winning.
What?
Let me tell you, here's another way to hit the same thing. You can't play craps and always bet the line. You got to know when to turn off your bets. And that means you get to keep your money until the next round. Okay? And this is important because being right doesn't always end up with you winning. You can be right and die, and it's not worth it.
Listen, Jay-Z could have been. Listen, Jay-Z was well within his right. He was well within his right to hit Solange after Solange hit him.
He would have lost big.
He was well within his right. Would it have been correct? In my opinion, no. Would somebody have faulted him if he would have hit her? I'm sure some people would have. But what he did was he said, listen, it is okay for me to lose here. Why? Because I know that I sit in the power position as a male. There are a lot of things going on in this situation which are causing her to lash out at me, and only a few which have to deal with this particular situation. When people come and they're angry about a thing, they're not just angry about the thing with you. They're angry about the thing with you and a bunch of other things that have happened before you. You're just the last person on the line to get the shit.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing that, what does he do? He doesn't even know the cameras are going off at the time. He takes his lumps. He moves out the way. He tries to control the situation, and he gets out of the elevator.
You know what he does? He blocks that kick, and when she's dragged out, he picks up her shoe that came off and carries it out maybe 5 steps behind. Let's control this and get it out of here. Let's defer and move this into the future. Handle this with calmer heads. Now, go ahead.
Now understand this. Let's say this. The willingness to defer is also based upon that which you have to lose.
Come on now.
So the more time you spend on your socioeconomic development, the more time you spend on your academic development, the more time you spend with your family, the more time you spend with your kids, and you understand that being inside of those relationships or inside of those domains for a period of time adds what we call appreciation to them, because you appreciate them, you will be less willing to roll the dice on your life. See, somebody who makes $1 billion is not rolling the dice on his life.
Somebody's got to get home and take care of the kids, put food in the fridge, need not put their life on the line.
Nope.
But let's transition here, because I don't want folks to think that if you experience improper behavior in an encounter with law enforcement, that deferring means losing or that it's over. See, deferring keeps you in the game. Defer and then respond. So the American Civil Liberties Union has on their website your rights and your responsibilities when in an encounter with law enforcement. I'm going to go down the bullet points. Your rights include you have the right to remain silent. You may exercise that right say so out loud. You have the right to refuse consent of search of your car or your home, meaning, hey, you get pulled over. Cop says, you have anything in the car I should know about? You can say, no, officer. You can close and lock the door and then say, I don't consent to search. They can't search your vehicle, not unless they, go through legal proceedings to get permission to search your vehicle. They can't just do it and let you go. You don't have to consent to being patted down or have a search. You don't consent to search. If you are not under arrest, you have the right to calmly leave. And if you are arrested, you have the right to an attorney. Ask for one immediately. Regardless of your immigration or citizen status, you have constitutional rights and your responsibilities when dealing with law enforcement. Do stay calm and be polite. That's what we talk about. Going in, exercising your power over the situation by keeping things calm. Do not interfere with or obstruct the police. Do not lie or give false documents. Do prepare yourself and your family in case you are arrested. Do remember the details of the encounter. Better yet, even record them. Do file a written complaint or call your local ACLU if you feel your rights have been violated. So that means, yes, if something goes wrong where you feel like you've been improperly treated, by all means, defer. Accept the ticket. Accept the bad attitude. Accept whatever you are encountering that you think is incorrect. Get home safely. Document what happened, and then call the ACLU or your local attorney or the local police department and file a complaint. And in that, power did not secede. Instead, we have now taken power. But you have to get past that confrontation in order for all this to occur.
Let me say this. As a seasoned martial artist and as an academe, listen, I give a shit what you think. This is my goddamn show. So I'm just going to say it. This is a super fantastic show. I'm getting ready to say some super fantastic shit. I think it is unfortunate that you have some of the people who are supposed to protect and serve in society being some of the least educated. I just think that's silly. I think that, let's say it like this, there'd be no way that an attorney or somebody with a JD or MD would pull somebody over or would grab somebody around the neck and choke them like that and then put their knee on the back. It's not possible. The level of education of that person is not going to let them make that type of decision. Okay? It's just not possible.
Well, now hold on. What if their experience says that there's no consequence?
That's the white supremacy argument.
And there's the problem. If there's been no consequence and power has gone unchecked, then anything happens. And anything is happening right now.
Here's the difference in the situation. The experience from that particular educational process allows people to value life differently because they spent more time investing in their life.
We're back to something to lose. Value of life. Yeah.
And when I say education, I don't just mean school education, because just having the knowledge and the background of martial arts, it's one thing I like about Japan. In Japan, the Japanese, the Tokyo police force, all of them do judo or they do kendo. All of them train and all of them practice. They have a great understanding of martial arts. they got a good understanding of the difference between a choke and a strangulation, the difference between an air choke and a blood choke. They have a good understanding of if I'm choking you, you can still speak while being choked or strangled, because essentially it's your brain, quote unquote, that's not breathing because it's not getting any blood. I think that if someone got this particular explanation, like my father was in my dojo last night, and he actually got the explanation about the choke. And he was like, nah, I didn't know that. A lot of people don't know that. Here is my question, Coach B. If I come behind you to, quote unquote, restrain you with either my baton or my arm around your neck, what is going to be your initial response?
Oh, of course, I'm going to knee jerk, move forward. I'm going to resist. I'm going to move forward, probably grab whatever is
grab whatever is around your neck, right? Now, once you grab what is around your neck and I'm holding on to it, what is going to be my reaction? Right.
And you're going to bend backwards. I'm going to try to bend forward while keeping my feet on the ground. That's not going to work.
Now, and then once you start to go limp, you're dead weight with me holding you up. It's going to feel like you're still resisting.
Right. So you're going to continue to pull hard.
Oh. I told my father, I said, let me tell you what, buddy. I said, once that guy puts his hands around your neck, I said, it's game over if he's not well trained. Listen, it's game over. If that person is not well trained, it is game over. Game over. First of all, if you get behind them, they can reach back and grab your gun. They can shoot. They're sitting there trying to claw your eyes. They're grabbing at your arm. You say, listen, it's game over. Like one of my students asked me, so, well, what would you do if one of the officers grabs you around your neck? I said, I'd probably get shot.
That's it.
I mean, those are the facts, because I'm not going to let anybody just grab me around my fucking neck.
Yeah. You know, it was funny in the news.
Listen, they grab me around my neck. When do they stop?
When you're knocked out on the ground.
Because if I'm standing up and they're pushing me and I'm trying to hold myself, I'm resisting. If I fall down, the guy puts his knee on the back of my head. I say, ouch, I get to squirming. They're squeezing tighter. What do?
You pass out.
Yeah, the difference between me and them, like I was telling my father today, the difference between me and them, I can look at somebody and make a snapshot assessment on who and what I'm dealing with. Case in point, you and I are also in the health and wellness coaching industry. I can look at somebody out the gate and tell if they got problems with blood pressure, if their A1C is high, just from a snapshot, just from a blink. I can say, all right, this person, they probably have cardiovascular problems. If it's an African American, then it's a high likelihood that they probably got a history of cardiovascular problem and diabetes. If the person is over 200 pounds, I know for sure they got some cardiovascular issues, correct?
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I know this for sure. For sure. And I know from martial arts, if I take a heavy guy and I put him on his back, the adipose tissue that he has, the fat, is compressing his diaphragm, and it's hard for that person to breathe. So when you take somebody and you throw them down or face up, and you're on top of them and they're big, their diaphragm can't expand and compress in order to get air.
Right.
And it's 2 and 3 and 4 you on top of somebody. I already know if I'm fighting somebody big, but I got to be in this fight a little bit longer, and I got to move 2 to 1 until they get tired, and when they get tired, I can take them down. I know these things when I look at somebody out the gate. So you're a little dude, and you jump on somebody's back, and you start choking them. Exactly when are you going to let go? See, here's the problem with this, and here's why I don't get in fights. Because I employ the first thing that Stephen Covey talks about in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I begin with the end in mind. Because when this shit starts, you need to ask yourself one question. How is this going to end? How is this ordeal going to end? If you would like this ordeal to end with this person being arrested, then say so. Because understand that you just killed this person over a fucking 27-cent cigarette.
Yeah.
Do you understand? Listen, before you start, okay, I'm an officer. I'm getting ready to walk up to this person because I believe that they're selling cigarettes, which is just such a big problem. It's going to just cause the whole fucking United States GDP to just be interrupted. It's just go to shit.
It's not even the cigarettes. It's the tax on the cigarettes that's been uncollected.
The tax on the cigarette is going to cause the whole fucking infrastructure of the United States to just go topsy-turvy. And we got to do something right now because it's such a fucking problem. Okay? All right. So now we got to go mess with this guy because it's such a problem that we need to fix it, and we need to fix it now. And the way that we're going to fix it, I'm going to have some little guy run behind him and jump on his back and choke him over a 27-cent cigarette. Now, understand this. Before this altercation started, the question somewhere in somebody's mind should have been, how would I like this to end? And if it goes outside of how you want it to end, you always have an option to stop. Or you have the option to say, sir, this is getting ready to go into a direction that you and I don't want this to go. I implore you to do X, Y, and Z now, or I am going to have to, hey, you don't jump behind nobody. Listen, the guy was like, please don't touch me. The guy didn't do anything. He wasn't threatening anybody. What would you like the person to do? If the person is under arrest, you have to say, sir, you're under arrest. If you're not under arrest, listen. It's foolishness.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get to talking too long, Coach B. You got to slow me down, man.
Yeah, hey, listen. It's all valid. And I want to make sure that just to say this unequivocally that we don't talk about this in context of it being a black and white issue. We see it as a human rights issue. Unfortunately, black folks and other minorities have been, and for the foreseeable future will continue to be, on the receiving end. But at the end of the day, this is a human rights issue. It could affect anyone of any color.
It's a human rights issue, right? It's a human rights issue. It's a sociology issue. It's a psychology issue. It's an issue that's based upon advantage. It's an issue that's based upon psychology. It's an issue that's based upon bias. These are all cognitive and mental framework constructs that shape the events playing out the way that they play out. Saying that it's because somebody was black or because somebody was white, it reduces the discussion to a sophomoric state when it is a more complex one than that.
Yeah, the thing that we all can agree on are the basic emotions. All right, we all want to get home and see our kids that night. Both of the people on either side of either of these two occurrences both wanted to get home safe that night. They want to earn a living. They want to do a good job at whatever it is they chose to do. We want to make our parents proud. We want to find a mate or a companion to spend time with. We're much more alike than we are different. We need to apply some of that thinking and some of that rationale as we navigate this issue and the discussions regarding this issue going forward. And as the regular layman that I am, just a regular citizen, I know my part will involve me, number one, staying safe and alive, and number two, making sure that my vote and my voice and even my spending are all in agreement with my philosophies. And I encourage you to do the same.
Super Fantastic Show.